Journeys of Return and Redemption, Zechariah 1. The studio microphones activate with a clean, low-voltage hum, casting a warm red tally light across the text of the post-exilic scrolls spread across the sound table. Outside, a quiet rain taps against the glass, but inside, the attention coordinates are entirely locked onto three intersecting historical timelines. Welcome back to Journeys of Return and Redemption, Alex Rivera says, leaning smoothly toward his microphone. If you caught our last episode, you saw our comprehensive structural overview of the book of Zechariah. Tonight, we launch the first chapter deep dive. We are standing in the awkward winter dead zone of 520 BC, right when the prophet Zechariah enters a paralyzed construction site to shatter a 16-year political and spiritual freeze. Dr. Naomi, pull back the chronological veil for us real quick. How does this activation interlock with our work in Haggai? Dr. Naomi slides her finger across a map of the Persian provincial administration. It slots perfectly between Haggai's second and third corporate oracles, Alex. Haggai used a heavy agricultural and economic audit to stir the spirits of the governor and high priest, but Zechariah is sent to perform deep, surgical reconstruction on the collective imagination of the remnant. He opens his account in the 8th month of the second year of Darius I with an intense, retroactive warning. He doesn't coddle them. He flatly declares that Yahweh was exceedingly angry with their pre-exilic fathers, and he issues a sharp imperative command, "Return to me, that I may return to you." Rabbi Jonah nods, resting his hands on the interlinear text, and to make that command unalterable, Zechariah uses the silent graves of Babylon as his primary piece of empirical evidence. He asks the community point blank, "Your fathers, where are they? And the prophets, do they live forever?" He forces them to recognize that while human skin and bone are temporary, the structural architecture of the divine decree is absolute. Their ancestors ignored the former prophets, assuming their institutional status granted them political immunity, but the spoken word hunted them down in exile until they broke down and confessed that God dealt with them exactly according to their conduct and ways. It's an incredible rhetorical maneuver. Zechariah locks the door of historical excuse before the night visions even unroll, and that structural authority reveals a spectacular visual map in the punctuation itself. Alex breaks in, turning a page of the interlinear layout. If you trace verse 6 in standard modern translations, like the New American Standard Bible, you'll see 4 nested quotation marks, all closing at the exact same spot on the word us. It handles communication like a set of Russian nesting dolls. You have Zechariah framing the history, quoting the intermediary, who quotes Yahweh, who is quoting the dead ancestors' corporate confession back in Babylon. The plumbing of heaven's multi-tiered administration is rendered completely scannable right there on the page. But 3 months later, on the 24th day of the 11th month, the pace decelerates entirely. Sophia, take us down into the glen. Sophia leans forward, her expression matching the heavy gravity of the visionary landscape. The setting of that first night vision is completely saturated with corporate weariness, Alex. Zechariah looks through the dark of the month of Shabbat and sees a man riding a red horse, stationed among low-status myrtle trees, located in a glen or a deep ravine. In the ancient Near Eastern symbolic vocabulary, the aromatic myrtle is a precise, fragile portrait of the covenant remnant itself. They aren't an imposing, majestic cedar of Lebanon. They are a small, hidden family tucked away in a dark valley under the surveillance of an imperial superpower. Stationed behind this primary rider are additional horsemen on red, sorrel, and white horses, a cosmic intelligence patrol that has just returned from cross-examining the global frontiers. And when they deliver their operational report to the angel of Yahweh, it delivers an agonizing psychological blow to the returnees. The horsemen declare, "We have patrolled the earth, and behold, all the earth is sitting still and at peace." Unpack the terror of that quiet, Father Elias, Sophia requests, turning toward the theologian. Because to a bumbling convert or a discouraged builder, that global peace looks like total divine abandonment. Father Elias adjusts his headset, his eyes tracking the structural layout. Exactly, Sophia. To the Persian Empire, that peace meant the administrative machinery was working flawlessly. The tax revenues were flowing, the borders were secure, and the pagan superpowers were resting in complete, complacent luxury. But to the broken remnant standing in the mud of a stalled temple foundation, it meant the tyrants who had slaughtered their children were thriving, while Jerusalem remained a heap of rubble. The 70 years of Jeremiah's predicted indignation were running out, and heaven seemed completely indifferent. That is why the angel of Yahweh steps into the gap as a live judicial advocate, crying out, "O Lord of hosts, how long will you have no mercy on Jerusalem?" And look at how the sovereign architecture responds. Yahweh answers the interpreting angel with comforting, gracious words, announcing an uncreated, blazing jealousy for Zion. He declares that his anger is burning against the secure nations who exceeded their disciplinary mandate out of malicious pride to completely crush his people. Redemption isn't just an abstract theory here. It transforms instantly into an engineering reality in verse 16. My house will be built in it, and a measuring line will be stretched over Jerusalem. Thomas taps his knuckles against his notepad, his practical engineering focus locking onto the next physical symbol. As a builder, Elias, that surveyor's measuring line is where the project becomes concrete. You don't pull out a measuring line to admire a ruined pile of stones. You deploy it when the blueprints are finalized and you are mapping out the literal dimensions of an urban expansion. God promises that the cities will overflow with prosperity, bypassing their localized scarcity. But as soon as that spatial line is projected, the text drops another massive obstacle. Zechariah lifts his eyes in verse 18 and encounters 4 horns. In the ancient Near Eastern mindset, a horn functions as a specific socio-political and military metaphor for aggressive, goring imperial regimes. These 4 horns represent the total, surrounding geopolitical pressure that broke the political sovereignty of Judah from all 4 cardinal directions, leaving the population completely scattered and broken. They have no walls, no defenses, and no conventional weapons to oppose goring power like that, Dr. Naomi states, her voice sharpening with historical analysis. But look at the immediate structural reversal to close out the chapter. The text records, "Then the Lord showed me 4 craftsmen. These are blacksmiths, metal artisans, master stonemasons. When Zechariah asks what they are coming to do, the angel answers directly, dropping down exactly 1 layer of quotation depth to 3 marks instead of 4. These have come to terrify them, to cast down the horns of the nations. Jonah, look at the trade mechanics of that counterstrike. Rabbi Jonah smiles, pointing directly to the interlinear text. It's a masterclass in covenantal symmetry, Naomi. A horn is a dense, terrifying, organic weapon of raw dominance, but it can only gore in a straight line. It cannot adapt. A craftsman, however, represents intentional skill, specialized trade tools, and the ultimate authority of the master architect. God doesn't fight imperial military cavalry by sending 4 bigger animals to create more horizontal destruction. He deploys his own hidden, skilled infrastructure. He sends artisans equipped with the exact hammers, tongs, and anvils required to systematically disassemble, shatter, and melt down the strongholds holding his family in a state of terror. The goring horns are completely outmatched by the precision of the celestial forge. Alex Rivera slides the finalized research outlines back into the master folder, looking directly into the camera lens as the studio indicators mark the final broadcast boundary. What an incredible baseline for our study of this book. When your resources are broken, your personal estate is in ruins, and the surrounding culture is completely quiet and indifferent to your pain, the redemptive engine of the king is actively assembling its own skilled infrastructure. He doesn't just smash our problems with random violence. He provides the exact, calculated craftsmanship required to cast down our bondages, clearing the ground for our identity to overflow with his original purpose. As Alex prepares to close the podcast, he leans toward his microphone and says, "I'm Alex Rivera, and this has been Journeys of Return and Redemption.